Welcome to the PSR YouTube channel. Hey, I love YouTube. YouTube's awesome. It's awesome. You should become a YouTube creator. Totally. This video will get monetized. Yes.
Whoa, yeah. We're having lots of family fun now. Whoa, yeah. None of these are real guns now. Whoa, yeah. Also got a Patreon, the link is in description. Got some merch too, yeah, you know you wanna get some.
Thank you for being patient. I think we've stroked the algorithm enough for today. The video starts in 3, 2, 1.
ATF agents' wives have boyfriends.
Hello friends, welcome back to another episode of PSR. It's an absolute pleasure to have you with me. Today we are talking about a very special Grand Power Stribog that takes AR fire control group and Scorpion mags. Alright guys, before we get into the rest of the video, I gotta thank the channel sponsor for PSR, the new channel sponsor, and that is Aves Engineering. What is Aves Engineering, also known as Aves Rails, do? Well, they make all sorts of great rails and parts for your DIY projects. I would never ever use the code PSR for an entire 10% off your whole order at Aves Rails. If you want to follow them on Instagram, check them out at Aves Rails. Otherwise, I would never ever use your favorite search engine to check out their stuff. Back to the video. So before we get into this particular bog, I want to talk a little bit about Grand Power as a company. You may have heard of them, you may have not. I think the Stribog is probably their most well-known firearm. So Grand Power is a Slovakian company that was started in 2002 by a man named Jaroslav Kuričina. He was a former armorer in the Slovakian military, and he was just obsessed with guns and he wanted to make it his career, so he figured he would start his own company. And he started by making a K100 pistol, and it had a unique barrel rotating locking system, kind of similar to the B&T TP9. In addition to the pistol, more recently Grand Power developed the Stribog, and that is this guy. I know I've heard a lot of gun tubers review the Stribog and they've gotten the name wrong. The correct way to say it is Stribog. Stribog. It's not a Stribog. I am guilty of saying Stribog, but I've learned it since, and it's the Stribog. It's not a Striborg, and it's certainly not a Cyborg. There have been a few different iterations of this gun. The first one was the SP9A1. There have since been the A3, which is a roller delay system, which is entirely different operating system than this gun, which is just a 9mm direct blowback system. If you are a fan of B&T, you probably know this is sort of like a poor man's APC-9. It's got a lot of similar looks to it, but it is a entirely different firearm. There were, for a while, some issues with the mags, but this is the Gen 2 version, and I have had no issues with the magazines, although that does bring us to this particular configuration, which I have swapped the lower. This lower is not a firearm. It is not considered a firearm. The upper, very similar to the CZ Scorpion, is considered the firearm. This upper is monolithic, meaning it is all one piece of, I believe, extruded aluminum. It is relatively light, but it is a blowback gun, so it does kind of have a heavier bolt. It is very similar to the CZ Scorpion in terms of feel and recoil impulse. I do prefer it, honestly, to the CZ Scorpion, however, because it just has a much nicer feel, given that it is metal and not plastic. It also has these M-lock slots on it, which are nice, and it has a Picatinny rail on the bottom here. It's similar to the CZ Scorpion in that it does have a last round bolt hold open, which is always nice, and that bolt hold open is also ambidextrous. What makes this a unique Stribog? Well, what I did to this was I substituted the lower with a Lingle Industries AR fire control group lower with CZ Scorpion mag compatibility. Now, the main reason I did this was to get a different trigger in there. The stock trigger on the Grand Power Stribog, it's nothing really to write home about. It's not horrible, it's not great. Better than the CZ Scorpion trigger, but not by a whole lot. It's a heavier pull pull, which makes sense for a submachine gun, but not really for a semi-auto gun like this. This is completely semi-auto. So what this Lingle Industries lower allows you to do is it allows you to put really almost any AR fire control group trigger that you want in there, with the exception of a couple of the wider hammers. The wide hammer AR fire control groups, some of them will not fit into this lower because of the way that the trigger hammer is designed on the original Stribog. In this lower, we have a CMC 2.5 pound trigger. It is an amazingly crisp single stage trigger. Let's ghost it. And the reset. And again. Very little creep, very crisp, short pull, and it's very light. Now the other question you might be asking is, well, why would you want a CZ Scorpion lower that fits CZ Scorpion mags as opposed to the Stribog mags? Well, the Stribog mags are perfectly fine and they function great for me, but I own a lot more CZ Scorpion mags because I have a CZ Scorpion. So in that case, it just makes more sense given that I already own a bunch of CZ Scorpion mags. With that said, the mag pull CZ Scorpion mags do not function very well in this lower, so I would recommend, if you're going to go with this, do not use the mag pull mags. Use OEM CZ Scorpion mags. The older generation OEM mags work great in here. Lingle offered to send me this lower, so I did not buy it. Like I said, it is not a firearm when in this gun. This is a prototype lower, so they are in the process of making aluminum lowers for these, but this is actually nylon and it's MJF manufactured, so that's kind of cool. Lingle does have their bolt catch, bolt release here, which is ambi. This, in my opinion, is just better. I can do it with both my pointer finger and my thumb. If you've operated the Stribog lower, you know that that can be a little bit hard to push with just one finger, and this makes it a lot easier. Also, another benefit of having the CZ Scorpion lower is you have this tab, just like an AK, where you can just hit it with the thumb to release, and that's really helpful. And you can also hit it with your pointer finger, like on the CZ Scorpion, which I believe is a superior design. So the other cool thing about this lower is you can put any AR grip you want on it. The grip angle of the original Stribog is not bad, but I wanted something a little bit more vertical, a little bit more aggressive, and so I have this Strike Industries grip on here, which is awesome. On the front here, on the muzzle, it is a 1/2x28 thread with a thread protector. That's the way it comes from the factory. If you don't have some kind of way of locking it down, this does come loose, but you can always just put any kind of muzzle device you wanted on there. Very easy because it's the same thread pitch as an AR. The other great thing about the Stribog is that it is a non-reciprocating charging handle. You can put your hand all around it and just do as much C-clamp Chad moves as you want, and it won't come back and bite you. Lastly, probably my favorite aspect of the Stribog are the flip-up iron sights. These are polymer, but the cool thing is they give you 2 sets of them in case you happen to drop it and break them. You can get steel ones, so Global Ordnance does sell those. Even when you flip them down, they actually still function as iron sights. There's a tiny little notch in them, like the size of a pistol iron sight. You can actually use those to aim. So you can both aim them when they're flipped down and when they're flipped up. The iron sights on this gun are actually surprisingly good. If you didn't already notice, this is a pistol. You might have thought this was a stock, but this is actually a brace, and it is by CNC Warrior. So this is a pistol brace, guys. This is a folding brace, and I really like the way it looks. It just looks really badass. Now, what were my impressions of shooting this thing? Well, I've shot this gun probably more than any other 9mm PCC that I own. It is such a fun gun to shoot. It is nothing too special, but when you add this trigger, this CMC 2.5 pound trigger, you can get some really fast shots, kind of like a 2-round burst. Your finger just happens to be there and it goes back and forth, and you know what that means? You get a little bit of fast fire. One of the additional things I forgot to mention that does help with that is this buffer here. We have a HB Industries buffer in the back, and that does help shorten the bolt travel, which makes it go a little bit faster, which is always great. One of the things I really want to do is compare this Stribog, the SP9A1, that's a normal 9mm blowback, with the SP9A3, which is a delayed blowback firearm. I really am curious how much of a difference I would feel with the 2 different operating mechanisms. But until then, I can only say that I had so much fun shooting this. The burst mode is incredible, and like I said, it is semi-auto. It is just the way your finger happens to be there. We're calling it Forrest Gumping. Gump reminds me of another word that rhymes with gump, but we're not going to say it because people are really scared of that word, and they associate bad things with the word that rhymes with gump. So we're not going to say it, but yes, Forrest Gump was running and running and running, and we were getting a lot of great, very fast bursts with this guy. So like I said, if you want to run a crisper trigger, Lingle lowers are awesome, and I just love this platform. It's a very fun gun. Lingle also makes a normal Stribog mag lower that just adds the ability to use the AR fire control group. So you can use Stribog mags if you already have a bunch, but then you get the functionality of being able to use the AR fire control group in there. And in addition to that, they also make a Colt mag lower, which is super cool, that uses an AR fire control group. So you can get all sorts of different lowers from Lingle, and like I said, they're not firearms, okay? Anywho, that's really all I gotta say about this gun. If you guys enjoyed this episode, please leave a like, and just think about subscribing. If you really hated it, leave a comment. It'll help with the algorithm. If you loved it, leave a comment. If you are sitting on the toilet and you have not wiped yet and you watched this entire episode, I salute you, and you now have my permission to wipe. Thank you all for watching. If you want to support me, I have a Patreon. It is in the description, and I also have merch as well. I hope you have a great day. Love you guys. Take care. Bye. That had a unique barrel locking system, sort of similar to the B&T